Hey, I ran into John today, and he's going to actually be doing some traveling in Europe. He says he's going to spend a lot of time in Prague.
Oh, Prague's awesome. Did I tell you I lived there?
No, get out of here. You never told me that.
Yeah, I lived in Prague about 15 years ago.
Oh, whoa. What were you doing there?
Well, I was traveling. I didn't actually know that I would end up in Prague. I was just gonna do whatever came along.
Wait, where'd you
But
start out traveling?
I got a one-way ticket to Amsterdam.
Oh, nice.
And one of the only people that I knew in Europe was this chick that I used to go out with. So I figured I'd look her up. I knew she had another boyfriend at that point, but she said she could get me a place to stay, and she was in Prague, so I figured I'd go there for a few weeks and see how it went.
She was from Prague, or?
No, she was American, but she was over there teaching English.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah.
So wait, how long did you spend in Amsterdam?
I only spent about 4 days in Amsterdam before I got kind of sick of it.
So you were just basically like traveling through.
Yeah, and then I started hitching
Oh, nice,
and
nice.
kind of hooked up with some English chicks and just kind of spent a little bit of time with them on the road and then eventually ended up on a train late at night and didn't have any money but pretended I didn't understand what anyone was saying and ended up in Prague.
Wait, when you first took off from the U.S., were you actually traveling alone?
Totally by myself.
Oh, sweet.
Yep.
Nice. And
It's
you,
funny looking back, I didn't have anything with me, you know?
yeah, you could just like basically take off on a whim.
I had like one pair of shoes and no health insurance, and I was just living large.
That's nice. And you know what? Now you would probably look back and think that you were totally broke, and that now that you have kids, that would be a difficult, a very difficult thing to think of.
If I had to be responsible for them, it would be difficult, but I was only responsible for me, and I was in the mood to feel anonymous. I wanted to go where no one recognized me.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. So that's great that you just travel alone. A lot of people are not into doing that, you know?
Yeah, well, it's a big deal.
Yeah,
You
some
got kind of
people
put
are.
yourself out there and just see what happens, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I've never traveled alone, but I'm sure I could do it, because I feel like I'm pretty good at meeting people, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
You,
sometimes it's fun to meet people, and other times it's fun to just truly be on your own. And you get into a situation where you realize that nobody knows where you are, and
yeah,
you just have this total sense of freedom.
yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah, I can only imagine. So
Yeah.
you took the train from Amsterdam to Prague?
No, I took the train to somewhere in Germany, and then I started thumbing on the side of the road.
Oh, how long did you stay in Germany?
Like 2 days.
Oh, that wasn't long at all.
Yeah, just long enough for a couple of weird people to meet me and help me out and take me to different places.
So they actually picked you up?
Yeah, at one point I decided that I didn't really care what direction the car was going as long as it was warm and dry I was getting in.
Wait, were you actually like did you believe that you were headed to Prague at that point, or were you just
Yeah,
heading wherever?
no, I was headed to Prague, but I didn't really care if it took me a while or what.
Oh, that's cool.
So
What'd you
I
think?
just kind of went with the flow of what was happening.
Yeah, what'd you think of Germany while you were there? Because I'd never been there
Kind of weird,
either.
kind of weird. Being a Jew, I was kind of aware of the history.
Yeah, I'm sure that that's something that is pretty hard to forget.
Yeah. Although, interestingly, the only person I met in Europe who was a deadhead was in Germany.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he was like so happy that I was into the Dead when he met me, and I gave him one tape that I had, and he was just ecstatic because they
Was
weren't able to get tapes like we were at that point.
Oh, so he was actually German.
Yeah,
That's
because this
great.
was before computers.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, the
Well, not
Dead played
before, but
there in '81,
yeah, yeah. He
and
he knew about them. He knew what was up, but he was like,
yeah.
I could use some music, and he had a Dead shirt on. He showed me. It was funny.
Wait, he was actually wearing a Grateful Dead shirt when you met
hmm
him?
It
That's
was like
great.
underneath a sweatshirt. He's like, no, really. He pulls over. He lifts up the sweatshirt. He's like, look, it was like an old tie dye.
Were you wearing one also?
No,
Oh, so how did he know?
I just started talking about it, and I had bootlegs with me.
Oh, that's great.
Hi, this is Kristen Dodds.
And this is Joe Weiss. and we just wanted to let you know that this material is copyrighted in the year 2008 by Learn Real English LLC. www.learnrealenglish.com. Hello, and welcome to the mini story lesson for the conversation Hitchhiking in Europe. Let's get started with the story now. Teddy the Turtle used to go out with Rhonda the Rabbit. But then Rhonda started dating Benny the Bear. Teddy was very upset, so he decided on a whim to drive his car across America. Teddy has an old pink car. After driving for 4 days, the car stopped working. He did not know what to do, so he decided to try hitching. After 1 hour, Tom Cruise picked him up. He asked Teddy where he was headed to. Teddy said that he was just going with the flow. Tom Cruise was driving to his house in Los Angeles. Teddy told him that he was totally broke. Then Tom Cruise said, "You can live with me, but you have to clean my pool every day." Teddy was ecstatic. He had no idea he would end up at Tom Cruise's house. When he got to Los Angeles, Teddy found a new girlfriend, so he is no longer upset about Rhonda. Okay, so that's the end of our story. Now I will go back and read the story again. This time I will ask questions as I read it. As always, you can answer the questions out loud. If you do not have enough time, then please pause your player and press play again when you have had enough time. And of course, if you do not feel like answering the questions out loud and just sitting there and listening instead, well, that's okay too. Okay, let's begin. Teddy the Turtle used to go out with Rhonda the Rabbit. Did Teddy the Turtle used to go out with Rhonda the Rabbit? Yes, he did. Teddy the Turtle used to go out with Rhonda the Rabbit. What did Teddy the Turtle used to do? Go out with Rhonda the Rabbit. He used to go out with Rhonda the Rabbit. Did Teddy used to go out with Rhonda or go to the grocery store? He used to go out with Rhonda. He didn't used to go to the grocery store. Did Teddy used to date Rhonda? Yes. Yes, he did. He used to go out with Rhonda, which is the same thing as saying he used to date Rhonda. To go out with means to date. Is Teddy still going out with Rhonda? No, he is not still going out with Rhonda. He used to, meaning he no longer goes out with Rhonda, but he did in the past. Is Teddy still dating Rhonda? No, he's not. He used to go out with Rhonda, which means he used to date Rhonda, which means he's no longer dating Rhonda. Who used to go out with Rhonda? Did Teddy or Tommy used to go out with Rhonda? Teddy. Teddy used to go out with Rhonda. Did Teddy or Tommy used to date Rhonda? Teddy did. Teddy used to date Rhonda, or Teddy used to go out with Rhonda. Who did Teddy used to go out with? Did he used to go out with Sarah or Rhonda? Rhonda. He used to go out with Rhonda. Did he used to date Rhonda? Yes, he did. He used to go out with Rhonda, which is the same as saying he used to date Rhonda. What type of animal is Teddy? Is he a rabbit or a turtle? A turtle. Teddy is a turtle. What type of animal is Rhonda? Is she a rabbit or a turtle? She's a rabbit. Rhonda is a rabbit. Is Teddy a rabbit? No, Teddy's not a rabbit. Is Rhonda a rabbit? Yes, she is. Rhonda is a rabbit. Rhonda the rabbit. Does Teddy the turtle still date Rhonda the rabbit? No, he doesn't. He used to date Rhonda the rabbit. Or he used to go out with Rhonda the rabbit. That means he no longer dates Rhonda. But then Rhonda started dating Benny the bear. Did Rhonda start dating Benny the bear? Yes, she did. Rhonda started dating Benny the bear. What did Rhonda do? Well, she started dating Benny the bear. Did she start a fire or start dating Benny the bear? She started dating Benny the bear. Who started dating Benny the bear? Did Teddy or Rhonda start dating Benny the bear? Rhonda did. Rhonda started dating Benny the bear. Who did Rhonda start dating? Did she start dating Teddy? No, she didn't start dating Teddy. She's no longer dating Teddy. Did she start dating Benny? Yes, she did. She started dating Benny. Did Rhonda start going out with Benny? Yes, she did. She started dating Benny, which is the same as saying she started going out with Benny. What type of animal is Benny? Is he a bear or a turtle? A bear. Benny is a bear. Benny the bear. Is Benny a bear? Yes, he is. Benny is a bear. Benny the bear. Did Rhonda start dating Benny the bear? Yes, she did. Rhonda started dating Benny the bear. Why doesn't Teddy date Rhonda anymore? Well, it's because she started dating Benny the bear. Teddy was very upset. Was Teddy very upset? Yes, he was. Teddy was very upset. Was Teddy happy? No, he was not happy. Was Teddy just a little upset? No, he was not just a little upset. He was very upset. Who was very upset? Was Benny very upset? Nope. Benny wasn't very upset. Was Rhonda very upset? No, Rhonda wasn't very upset. Was Teddy really upset? Yes, Teddy was very upset. Teddy was really upset. So he decided on a whim to drive his car across America. Did he decide on a whim to drive his car across America? Yes, he did. That's what he decided. He decided on a whim to drive his car across America. What did he decide on a whim? To drive across America. He decided on a whim to drive across America. Did he decide to drive his car or ride his motorcycle? Drive his car. He decided on a whim to drive his car. What did he decide to do on a whim? Drive his car across America. Did he decide to do it on a whim? Yes, he did. He decided to do it on a whim. Did he decide to do it without a lot of thought? Yes. Yes, he did. He decided on a whim, which means he decided to do it without a lot of thought. On a whim means to do something without a lot of thought. Did he decide to drive across America without a lot of thought? Yes, he did. He decided on a whim to drive across America, which means he decided to drive across America without a lot of thought, without much planning, without thinking about it too much. Who decided to drive across America? Did Benny or Teddy decide to drive across America? Teddy did. Teddy decided to drive across America. He decided on a whim. Where did he decide to drive? Did he decide to drive across Canada or America? America. He decided to drive his car across America. Did Teddy think about it a lot, or did he do it without much thought? Well, he did it without much thought because he did it on a whim. Did Teddy decide on a whim to drive across America? Yes, he did. He decided on a whim to drive across America, or he decided without giving it too much thought to drive across America. Teddy has an old pink car. Does Teddy have an old pink car? Yes, he does. Teddy has an old pink car. What does Teddy have? Does he have a boat or a car? A car. Teddy has a car. What color is his car? Is it purple or pink? It's pink. Teddy has a pink car. Does Teddy have a new car? No, he doesn't have a new car. Does Teddy have an old car? Yes, he does. Teddy has an old car. Does Teddy have a new pink car? No, he doesn't have a new pink car. Does Teddy have an old pink car? Yes, he does. Teddy has an old pink car. After driving for 4 days, the car stopped working. Did the car stop working? Yes, it did. The car stopped working. How long did he drive before the car stopped working? Did he drive 4 days
or 4 weeks? 4 days. The car stopped working after driving for 4 days. Did the car stop working after driving for 2 days? Nope, it wasn't 2 days. It was 4 days. What stopped working? Did Teddy or the car stop working? The car. The car stopped working. Was Teddy able to drive the car after driving for 4 days? No, he wasn't. He was not able to drive the car because the car stopped working. He did not know what to do. Did he know what to do? No, he did not know what to do. Why didn't he know what to do? Well, he didn't know what to do because his car had broken down, so he probably did not have a ride anywhere. Who did not know what to do? Did Teddy not know what to do? That's correct. Teddy did not know what to do. Did Teddy know what to do? No, he did not. He did not know what to do. His car broke down, and now he needed a ride. So he decided to try hitching. Did he decide to try hitching? Yes, he did. He decided to try hitching. What did he decide to do? To try hitching. He decided to try hitching. Did he decide to try hitching or try to fix his car? To try hitching. He decided to try hitching. Did he decide to try to get a ride in a car with someone he did not know? Yes. Yes, that's what hitching is. Did he decide to try to hitchhike? Yes, he did. Hitching is short for hitchhiking, and hitchhiking is to try to get a ride in a car with someone that you do not know. So he decided to try hitching, he decided to try hitchhiking, he decided to try to find a ride in a car with someone he did not know. They are all the same thing. Who decided to try hitching? Did Rhonda decide to try hitching? No, it wasn't Rhonda. Did Teddy decide to try hitching? Yes, he did. Teddy decided to try hitching. Did Teddy decide to try to get a ride in a car with someone he did not know? Yes, he did. That's what hitchhiking is, and that's also what hitching is. To try to get a ride in a car with someone you do not know. After 1 hour, Tom Cruise picked him up. Did Tom Cruise pick him up after 1 hour? Yes, Tom Cruise picked him up after 1 hour. What happened after 1 hour? Did Tom Cruise pick him up? Yes, he did. Tom Cruise picked him up. Did Tom Cruise give him a ride in his car? Yes, he did. He picked him up. He gave him a ride in his car. When you say you picked someone up, that means you gave them a ride in your car. Who picked him up? Did Rhonda pick him up? No, it wasn't Rhonda. Did Tom Cruise pick him up? Yes, he did. Tom Cruise picked him up. How long was it before Tom Cruise picked him up? Was it 1 hour or 1 day? 1 hour. It was after 1 hour. Who did Tom Cruise pick up? Did he pick up Teddy? Yes, he did. He picked up Teddy. Did Tom Cruise give Teddy a ride in his car? Yes. Tom Cruise picked Teddy up, which means he gave Teddy a ride in his car. He asked Teddy where he was headed to. Did he ask Teddy where he was headed to? Yes, he did. He asked Teddy where he was headed to. What did he do? He asked Teddy where he was headed to. That's what he did. Did he ask Teddy where he was going to? Yes, he did. He asked him where he was headed to, which is the same thing as asking where he was going to. Did he ask Teddy where he was headed to, or what time it was? Where he was headed to. He asked him where he was headed to. He didn't ask him what time it was. Who asked Teddy where he was headed to? Did Tom Cruise or Will Smith ask Teddy where he was headed to? Tom Cruise did. Did Tom Cruise ask Teddy where he was going to? Yes, he did. He asked Teddy where he was headed to, which is the same thing as asking him where he was going to. Headed to means going to. What did he ask Teddy? Did he ask him where he was headed to, or ask him for a cigarette? He asked him where he was headed to. Did he ask him where he was going to? Yes, he did. He asked him where he was headed to, which is the same thing as asking him where he was going to. Teddy said that he was just going with the flow. Did Teddy say he was going with the flow? Yes, he did. Teddy said he was just going with the flow. What did Teddy do? Did he say he was just going with the flow? Or did he ask Tom Cruise for $100? He said he was just going with the flow. Who said he was just going with the flow? Did Teddy or Tom Cruise say he was just going with the flow? Teddy did. Teddy said he was just going with the flow. Did Teddy say that he did not do any planning? Yes, he did. He said he was just going with the flow, which is the same as saying he did not do any planning. When you say going with the flow, you mean that you did not do any planning. What did Teddy say? Did he say he was hungry or that he was going with the flow? He said that he was going with the flow. Did he say that he did not do any planning? Yes, he did. He said he was going with the flow, which means he said he did not do any planning. Going with the flow means not doing any planning. Did he say that he did not have a plan about where he was going? Well, yes, that's true. He said he was going with the flow when Tom Cruise asked him where he was headed to. So what he was saying was that he did not have a plan about where he was going. Tom Cruise was driving to his house in Los Angeles. Was Tom Cruise driving to his house in Los Angeles? Yes, he was. That's where he was driving. He was driving to his house in Los Angeles. What was Tom Cruise doing? Was he washing his car or driving to his house in Los Angeles? Driving to his house in Los Angeles. He was driving to his house in Los Angeles. Who was driving to his house in Los Angeles? Was Tom Cruise or Will Smith? Tom Cruise was. Tom Cruise was driving to his house in Los Angeles. Where was Tom Cruise driving? Was he driving to New York? No, he wasn't driving to New York. Was he driving to Los Angeles? Yes, he was. He was driving to Los Angeles. Where was he driving to in Los Angeles? Was he driving to the library in Los Angeles? No, he wasn't driving to the library. Was he driving to his house in Los Angeles? Yes, that's correct. He was driving to his house in Los Angeles. Does Tom Cruise have a house in Los Angeles? Yes, he does. He was driving to his house in Los Angeles. So that means he must have a house in Los Angeles. Teddy told him that he was totally broke. Did Teddy tell him that he was totally broke? Yes, he did. He told him that he was totally broke. What did Teddy tell him? Did he tell him that he was sick or that he was totally broke? He told him that he was totally broke. Did he tell him that he had a lot of money? No, he did not tell him that he had a lot of money. Did he tell him that he had no money? Yes, that's correct. He told him that he was totally broke, which is the same as saying he had no money. Totally broke means having no money. Who told him that he was totally broke? Did Will Smith or Teddy tell him that he was totally broke? Teddy did. Teddy told him that he was totally broke. Did Teddy tell him that he had no money? Yes, he did. He told him that he was totally broke, which is the same as saying he had no money. Totally broke means to have no money. Who did Teddy tell that he was totally broke? Did he tell his mother? No, he didn't tell his mother. Did he tell Tom Cruise? Yes, that's who he told. He told Tom Cruise. Did he tell Tom Cruise that he had no money? Yes, he did. He told him that he was totally broke, which is the same thing as saying he had no money. Then Tom Cruise said, "You can live with me, but you have to clean my pool every day." Who Who said that Teddy can live with him? Did Tom Cruise say it? Yes, he did. Tom Cruise said, "You can live with me." Can Teddy live with Tom Cruise? Yes. Yes, he can. He can live with Tom Cruise, but he has to clean the pool every day. What does Teddy have to do? Does he have to drive Tom Cruise's car or clean his pool? Clean his pool. He has to clean his pool. What does Teddy have to clean? Does he have to clean Tom Cruise's house or Tom Cruise's pool? His pool. He has to clean Tom Cruise's pool. Does Tom Cruise have a pool? Yes, he does. He has a pool. We know this because he said that Teddy would have to clean his pool. How often does Teddy have to clean the pool? Does he have to clean it only on Mondays? No, not just on Mondays. Does he have to clean it every day? Yes, he does. He has to clean it every day if he wants to live with Tom Cruise. Teddy was ecstatic. Was Teddy ecstatic? Yes, he was. Teddy was ecstatic. Was Teddy sad? No, he wasn't sad. Was Teddy just a little happy? No, he wasn't just a little happy. He was ecstatic. That means he was really happy. Was Teddy very happy? Yes, he was ecstatic. He was very happy. He was really happy. Who was ecstatic? Was Tom Cruise ecstatic? No, not Tom Cruise. Was Teddy ecstatic? Yes, he was. Teddy was ecstatic. Was Teddy very happy? Yes, he was. He was ecstatic. Ecstatic is very happy. He had no idea he would end up at Tom Cruise's house. Did he think that he would end up at Tom Cruise's house? No, he didn't. He had no idea, which means he did not think that he would end up at Tom Cruise's house. Did he think that he would go to Tom Cruise's house at the end? No, he didn't. He had no idea. Who had no idea he would end up at Tom Cruise's house? Teddy or Benny? Teddy. Teddy had no idea he would end up at Tom Cruise's house. Where did Teddy have no idea he would end up? At Tom Cruise's house or at his mother's house? At Tom Cruise's house. He had no idea he would end up at Tom Cruise's house. Did he have no idea that he would go to Tom Cruise's house last? Yes, that's correct. He had no idea he would end up at Tom Cruise's house, which is the same thing as saying he had no idea he would go to Tom Cruise's house last. To end up means to go to a place last. When he got to Los Angeles, Teddy found a new girlfriend. Did Teddy find a new girlfriend when he got to Los Angeles? Yes, he did. Teddy found a new girlfriend when he got to Los Angeles. What did Teddy do when he got to Los Angeles? Did he find a new girlfriend or take a shower? He found a new girlfriend. He found a new girlfriend when he got to Los Angeles. Who found a new girlfriend? Did Teddy or Tom Cruise find a new girlfriend? Teddy did. Teddy found a new girlfriend. When did Teddy find a new girlfriend? Did he find a new girlfriend after dinner or when he got to Los Angeles? When he got to Los Angeles. Teddy found a new girlfriend when he got to Los Angeles. Did Teddy find an old girlfriend when he got to Los Angeles? No, he didn't find an old girlfriend. He found a new girlfriend. Where did Teddy find a new girlfriend? Did he find a new girlfriend in New York or Los Angeles? In Los Angeles. He found a new girlfriend when he got to Los Angeles. So he is no longer upset about Rhonda. Is he still upset about Rhonda? No, he's not. He's no longer upset about Rhonda. Who is not upset about Rhonda? Tom Cruise or Teddy? Teddy. Teddy is not upset about Rhonda. Was Teddy ever upset about Rhonda? Yes, he was. He was upset about Rhonda, but he is no longer upset about Rhonda, which means he's not upset about Rhonda right now, but that he was at one point in time upset about Rhonda. Is Teddy upset about Rhonda? No, he's not. He is no longer upset about Rhonda. Okay, so that's the end of our story, which means that we are at the end of the mini story lesson for the conversation Hitchhiking in Europe. Now, please tell this story by yourself. Remember, you do not need to memorize every word in the story, but you should use the idioms and the vocabulary words that we discussed. Here are the idioms and vocabulary words that we discussed. Go out with, on a whim, hitchhiking, picked him up, headed to, going with the flow, totally broke, ecstatic, and end up. Okay, good luck telling the story, and I'll see you next time.
Hi, this is Kristen Dodds.
And this is Joe Weiss. And we just wanted to let you know that this material has been copyrighted in the year 2008 by Learn Real English, LLC. www.learnrealenglish.com. Hi, welcome to the Point of View stories for Hitchhiking in Europe. We're going to hear the same story from the Hitchhiking in Europe mini-story lesson, but we're going to change the point of view by either changing the time or changing the person who is telling the story. Okay, let's get started. Teddy the Turtle goes out with Rhonda the Rabbit. But then Rhonda starts dating Benny the Bear. Teddy is very upset. So he decides on a whim to drive his car across America. Teddy has an old pink car. After driving for 4 days, the car stops working. He does not know what to do. So he decides to try hitching. After 1 hour, Tom Cruise picks him up. He asks Teddy where he is headed to. Teddy says that he is just going with the flow. Tom Cruise is driving to his house in Los Angeles. Teddy tells him that he is totally broke. Then Tom Cruise says, "You can live with me, but you have to clean my pool every day." Teddy is ecstatic. He had no idea he would end up at Tom Cruise's house. When he gets to Los Angeles, Teddy finds a new girlfriend, so he is no longer upset about Rhonda. Okay, so as you can see, we just heard the story told as if it is happening right now or in the present. Now let's tell the story as if it's happening in the future. So we will think of the story happening in, say, 2 years. Okay. In 2 years, Teddy the Turtle will be going out with Rhonda the Rabbit. But then, Rhonda will start dating Benny the Bear. Teddy will be very upset. So he's going to decide on a whim to drive his car across America. Teddy will have an old pink car. After driving for 4 days, the car is going to stop working. He will not know what to do. So he's going to decide to try hitching. After 1 hour, Tom Cruise is going to pick him up. He's going to ask Teddy where he's headed to. Teddy will say that he is just going with the flow. Tom Cruise will be driving to his house in Los Angeles. Teddy will tell him that he is totally broke. Then Tom Cruise will say, "You can live with me, but you have to clean my pool every day." Teddy will be ecstatic. He will have had no idea he would end up at Tom Cruise's house. When he gets to Los Angeles, Teddy's going to find a new girlfriend, so he will no longer be upset about Rhonda. Okay, so that's the end of this version of the story, the version in which the story is in the future, where we talk about events that are going to happen or events that will happen. Alright, now let's hear the story from Teddy's point of view. It will be as if Teddy is actually telling you the story. Here we go. I go out with Rhonda the Rabbit. But then Rhonda starts dating Benny the Bear. I am very upset. So I decide on a whim to drive my car across America. I have an old pink car. After driving for 4 days, the car stops working. I do not know what to do. So I decide to try hitching. After 1 hour, Tom Cruise picks me up. He asks me where I am headed to. I say that I am just going with the flow. Tom Cruise is driving to his house in Los Angeles. I tell him that I am totally broke. Then Tom Cruise says, "You can live with me, but you have to clean my pool every day." I am ecstatic. I had no idea I would end up at Tom Cruise's house. When I get to Los Angeles, I find a new girlfriend, so I am no longer upset about Rhonda. Alright, so that is the end of the point of view stories for the lesson, Hitchhiking in Europe. So now, go back and listen to each of these stories. Listen to them many times. Listen to them until you feel that you understand them well. Then try to tell each story on your own. Okay, see you next time.
Hi, this is Kristen Dodds.
And this is Joe Weiss. And we just wanted to let you know that this material has been copyrighted in the year 2009 by Learn Real English, LLC. www.learnrealenglish.com.
Hello, and welcome to the vocabulary lesson for the conversation Hitchhiking in Europe. Now, this conversation is between Joe and a friend of ours named David. David is just talking about doing some traveling in Europe. Okay, let's begin with the conversation. Joe starts off by saying, "Hey, I ran into John today." Now, when he says, "Hey, this is just filler. All three of these words are filler. They're not really needed in the sentence. You could take them away from the sentence and the sentence would still make sense. When he says, "I ran into John today," ran into or run into means to unexpectedly see someone or to see someone by surprise. I can remember when I ran into Will at the store the other day. That's an example of ran into. And then Joe goes on to say, and he's gonna actually be doing some traveling in Europe. Gonna. This is short for going to. You won't see gonna in written English, but you'll hear it in conversational English. He's gonna actually. Actually here is just a filler word. It's not really needed. You could take it away and the sentence would still make sense without it. He's gonna actually be doing. Now, doing is short for doing. Again, this is something that you will not see in written English, but you will hear it in conversational English. He's gonna actually be doing some traveling in Europe. Traveling. This is short for traveling. So here again, you wouldn't see traveling in written English, but you would hear it in conversational English. And then Joe goes on to say, he says he's going to spend a lot of time in Prague. Now, is just a filler word. It's not needed. And when Joe says spend a lot of time, he's saying stay a long time in Prague. And then David says, "Oh, Prague's awesome," or "Prague's great," is what he's saying. And then David says, "Did I tell you I lived there?" And Joe says, "No, get out of here. You never told me that." Get out of here. What Joe is saying here is, are you serious? Get out of here. You never told me that. For example, when Kim told me she was pregnant, I said, "Get out of here. I didn't even know you wanted to have children." Get out of here. And then David says, "Yeah." Yeah is casual or informal or slang for yes. David goes on to say, "I lived in Prague about 15 years ago." And then Joe says, "Oh, whoa." Now, this is just showing emotions such as, "I can't believe you lived in Prague, and I didn't know this." And then Joe starts to say something. And then he goes on to say, "What were you doing there?" And David says, well is just a filler word. Doesn't really have any meaning. He goes on to say, "I was traveling." And then David says, "I didn't actually know that I would end up in Prague." End up. This means to go to a place last. End up. I can remember when I ended up in Thailand after traveling in India and Nepal several years ago, many years ago. End up. And David goes on to say, "I was just going to do whatever came along." Now, just, this is a filler word. It's not really needed. What David is saying here, just going to do whatever came along, he's saying, I had no set plans. And then Joe says, "Wait, where'd you start out traveling?" And David says, I got a one-way ticket to Amsterdam. And then Joe laughs and says, oh, nice. And David says, and one of the only people that I knew in Europe was this chick. Now, chick is a woman. Sometimes it can mean girl as well. Chick. For example, Matt met some chick at a bar last night. Chick. It's a slang term for woman or girl. And David goes on to say, this chick that I used to go out with. Go out with. This means to date. Go out with. For example, Matt is going to go out with the girl he met at the bar last night. Go out with. And then David goes on to say, so I figured, or he's saying, I thought, I'd look her up. Look her up. This means to contact her. Look her up. For example, I am going to Dublin, so I may look up my friend Eric who lives there. Look her up, or in this example, look up. And then David says, I knew she had another boyfriend at that point, or he's saying at that time, but she said she could get me a place to stay, or she could find me a place to live. And she was in Prague, so I figured I'd go there for a few weeks and see how it went. What he's saying is, see how it went, see if I liked it. And then Joe says, she was from Prague? Or... And David says, no, she was American, but she was over there teaching English. Over there meaning she was in Prague teaching English. And Joe says, oh, nice, nice. And David says, yeah, just agreeing with Joe. And Joe says, so wait, how long did you spend in Amsterdam? And David says, I only spent about 4 days in Amsterdam before I got kind of sick of it. Now, kind of here is just filler. It really is not needed in this sentence. Sick of it. Sick of it means no longer interested in something. Sick of it. For example, I used to like to exercise, but now I am sick of it. Sick of it. And then Joe says, so you were just going? Going is short for going. You were just going? You were just basically like traveling through? And like here, that's just a filler word. It's not really needed. And travelin'. Travelin' is short for traveling. Travelin' through means not staying long. And David says, yeah, and then I started hitching. Now hitching, this is short for hitchhiking. Hitchhiking is traveling by getting a free ride in a car with someone you do not know. Hitchhiking. For example, I know someone who traveled through Europe hitching rides the whole way. Hitching or hitchhiking. And Joe says, oh, nice, nice. And then David says, and kind of hooked up with some English chicks. Hooked up, this means met. Hooked up. I hooked up with some friends when I got to Dublin. Hooked up. English chicks, this means women from England. And then David goes on to say, and just kind of spent a little bit of time with them on the road. Or what he's saying is, I spent a short amount of time with them on the road. On the road, this means traveling. On the road. For example, I love to travel. I just can't wait to get back on the road again. On the road. And then David says, and then eventually ended up on a train late at night and didn't have any money, but pretended, or he's saying acted as though I didn't understand what anyone was saying, and ended up in Prague. And Joe says, wait, when you first took off, this means to leave. Took off. I took off for India after living in Korea for 1 year. I took off just to backpack around India. Took off. So Joe says, wait, when you first took off, is just filler here. It's not needed. And Joe goes on to say, from the U.S. U.S. is just short for USA. Joe says, were you actually traveling alone? Alone, meaning by yourself? And David says, totally by myself, or completely by myself. And Joe says, oh, sweet. Now, sweet here means very good. Sweet. For example, it was sweet to finally finish my teaching degree. I was so excited. Sweet. And David says, yep. Now, yep is slang for yes. And then Joe says, nice. And David says, it's funny looking back. I didn't have anything with me, you know? Now, you know, this is short for you know. And when David says, I didn't have anything with me, he's saying he did not have a lot of stuff, like he didn't have a lot of clothes, for example. And Joe says, yeah, you could just basically take off on a whim. On a whim. This means to do something without a lot of thought. On a whim. For example, when I took off for Korea on a whim, I didn't know what to expect. On a whim. And then David says, I had like one pair of shoes and no health insurance. Health insurance is something that allows you or lets you go to the doctor for less money. You pay money each month for it. You pay money for the health insurance. And then David goes on to say, and I was just living large. Now living, this is short for living. Living large, this means doing very well. For example, after Eric started to make more money at work, he was living large. Living large. And then Joe laughs and says, that's nice. And you know what? Now you would probably look back and think that you were totally broke. Totally broke. This means had no money. Totally broke. For example, after I bought my car, I was totally broke. Then Joe goes on to say, and that now that you have kids means children, that would be a very difficult thing to think of. And what Joe's saying here is that'd be something difficult to think of doing if you had children. And David says, if I had to be responsible for them, it would be difficult. Now, responsible means take care of everything. So David's saying, if I had to take care of everything for my kids, my children, then yeah, it would be difficult. David says, but you know, I was only responsible for me. And I was in the mood to feel anonymous. What David is saying here at the end, I was in the mood to feel anonymous. He's saying I was feeling like I wanted to be anonymous. Now, anonymous means that no one knows you. No one knows who you are. Anonymous. And then David goes on to say, I wanted to go where no one recognized me. Or he's saying, I wanted to go where no one would know who I was. And then Joe says, yeah, no, that sounds great. So you that's great that you just traveled alone. A lot of people are not into doing that, you know? Now, doing, this is short for doing. Not into doing that, or not into doing something, means you do not want to do that. You don't want to do something. For example, I was not into going to the movies because I was too tired. Not into. And then David says, yeah, well, it's a big deal. A big deal means important. A big deal. It was a big deal, I can remember, when I finished school. It was a big deal for me and for my parents. A big deal. And then Joe says, yeah, some people. And then David says, you've got to kind of put yourself out there and just see what happens, you know? Put yourself out there. This means to get involved. Put yourself out there. And then Joe says, yeah, exactly. Or he's saying, yeah, for sure. He's agreeing with David. And then Joe says, I've never traveled alone, but I'm sure I could do it, you know? Because I'm good. I feel like I'm pretty good at meeting people, you know? Now, pretty here, pretty good means very good. Then David says, yeah, well, sometimes it's fun to meet people, and other times it's fun to just truly be on your own. And what David's saying here is really be by yourself, truly be on your own, or really be by yourself. David says, and you know, you get into a situation where you realize, or he's saying where you know, that nobody knows where you are. And Joe laughs. And then David says, and you just have this total sense of freedom. Total sense of freedom. This means you just feel completely free. And Joe says, yeah, agreeing with David. And then David says, it's crazy. It's crazy here means it's hard to believe. It's crazy. For example, it's crazy for me to think about how long ago I moved to Korea. It's already been about 12 years ago. It's crazy. And then Joe says, yeah, I can only imagine. Or what he's saying is, I can believe that. And David says, yeah, agreeing with Joe. And then Joe says, you took the train from Amsterdam to Prague? And David says, no, I took the train to somewhere in Germany, and then I started thumbing on the side of the road. Thumbing, this means hitchhiking. And hitchhiking, if you'll remember, is traveling by getting a free ride in a car with someone you do not know. So thumbing. For example, I did not have a ride, so I started thumbing. Thumbing. And then Joe laughs and says, oh, how long did you stay in Germany? And David says, like 2 days. And Joe says, oh, that wasn't long at all. And David says, yeah, just long enough for a couple of weird people, or he's saying for two weird people, two strange people, to meet me and help me out and take me to different places. And Joe says, so, they actually picked you up? Now, so here, this is just a filler word. It's not really needed. And when he says picked you up, what this means is to be given a ride in a car. So when Joe says, so they actually picked you up, so they gave you a ride in a car? Picked you up. For example, I was hoping someone would pick me up because I lost my car keys the other day. pick me up or picked you up. And then David says, yeah, at one point, or he's saying, at one time, I decided that I didn't really care what direction the car was going. So he's saying, I didn't really care. It didn't matter what direction or which way the car was going. As long as it was warm and dry, I was getting in. I was getting into the car. Joe says, wait, were you actually did you believe that you were headed to Prague at that point? Or were you just... Now, headed to. Headed to means going to. Going to Prague. For example, I was headed to work yesterday when I saw Kathleen. Headed to. And David says, yeah, I was. And Joe says, headed wherever? Wherever meaning anywhere? David says, no, I was headed to Prague, but I didn't really care if it took me a while or what. Now, a while, that means some time. He didn't care if it took him some time. He didn't care if he got there in a hurry or not. And when David says, or what, at the end of the sentence, this is just filler. It's not really needed. You could take it away, and the sentence would still make sense. And Joe says, oh, that's cool. Now, cool means good. Cool. For example, San Francisco is a cool place to live. Cool. And then David says, so I just kind of went with the flow of what was happening. Now, went with the flow or go with the flow. This means to do something without planning. Went with the flow. I can remember sometimes when teaching my class in the past, I would just go with the flow. So go with the flow or went with the flow. And then Joe says, yeah, what did you think of Germany while you were there? Because I've never been there. David says, kind of weird. Or he's saying, a little strange. And Joe says, either. And David says again, kind of weird. Being a Jew. So Jew, this is short for Jewish. And what David is saying is Jewish person. David is Jewish. And then Joe laughs. And David says, I was kind of aware of the history. So he's saying, I knew about the history. Joe says, yeah, I'm sure that that's something that is pretty hard or very difficult to forget. And David says, yeah, although is just like an afterthought here. And David goes on to say, interestingly, or he's saying it was interesting, the only person I met in Europe who was a deadhead was in Germany. Now, a deadhead, this is a fan of the American rock and roll music band, the Grateful Dead. Deadhead. And Joe says, oh, really? And David says, yeah. And he was like so happy that I was into the Dead when he met me, and I gave him one tape that I had. The Dead. The Dead is short for the Grateful Dead, the American rock and roll music band. The Dead. And tape. Tape here means cassette tape. Tape. For example, I used to listen to tapes before I bought a CD player. Tape. And then Joe laughs, and David says, and he was just ecstatic. Ecstatic, this means very happy, ecstatic. For example, I was so ecstatic when my family visited me in San Francisco. I couldn't believe they were coming. I was ecstatic. And David goes on to say, because they weren't able to get tapes like we were at that point. And Joe says, oh, so he was actually German? And David says, yeah. And Joe laughs and says, that's great. And David says, because this was before computers. So what David is talking about here is now it would be much easier for someone from another country to get this music, the Grateful Dead's music, by just going onto the internet. But this was before computers, so this German guy, didn't have a lot of Grateful Dead music. So then Joe says, yeah, well, if you think about it, or he's saying, if you remember, the Dead played there. So he's saying the Grateful Dead played in Germany in concert in 81. And when he says 81, he's talking about 1981, the year 1981. And David says, yeah, he knew about them. He knew what was up. Knew what was up. This means to know about something. Know what was up, or knew what was up. He knew what was up. And David says, but he was like, what David is, when he says here, he was like, what he's starting to say is, the German guy said, And then Joe says, yeah. And David goes on to say, I could use some music. So David is saying, the German guy was like, I could use some music. Or he's saying, the German guy said, I could use some music. And then David goes on to say, and he had a Dead shirt on. He showed me. It was funny. Joe says, wait, he was actually wearing a Grateful Dead shirt when you met him? Grateful Dead. This is the American rock and roll music band that we keep hearing about. The references, Deadhead, The Dead. So, Grateful Dead. And then David says, So, David is basically just saying yes to Joe here. And then Joe laughs and says, that's great. And David says, it was like underneath a sweatshirt. A sweatshirt is like a thick, warm shirt. And then David goes on to say, he was like, no, really. So what David is saying here is, the German guy said, no, really. He was like, no, really. And then David goes on to say, he pulls over, he lifts up the sweatshirt. So David is just describing now, he was taking the sweatshirt off to show him his Grateful Dead t-shirt underneath that he was wearing. And then David goes on to say, he was like, look. So again, what David is saying here is, he said, the German guy said, look. And then David says, it was like an old tie-dye. So tie-dye, this is a colorful t-shirt. Tie-dye. For example, I have a friend named Jason, and he has a lot of tie-dyes. He wears a lot of tie-dyes. Tie-dye. And Joe says, were you wearing one also? David said, no. And Joe says, oh, so how did he know? So Joe is asking David, well, how did he know that you liked the Grateful Dead too? And David says, I just started talking about it, and I had bootlegs with me. Now, bootlegs are cassette tapes with recordings of music bands playing in concert. Bootlegs. This is an example of bootlegs. When I first met Joe, he used to have a lot of bootlegs mostly of the Grateful Dead. Bootlegs. And then Joe ends the conversation by saying, "Oh, that's great." Okay, now this is the end of the vocabulary lesson for the conversation Hitchhiking in Europe. Now, if you have a basic understanding of the vocabulary, go ahead and go on to the mini story. Otherwise, go back and listen to this lesson as many times as you need to, but in a relaxed way. And then when you feel ready, go to the mini story. Alrighty, see you next time. Bye-bye. Hi, this is Kristen Dodds.
And this is Joe Weiss. And we just wanted to let you know that this material has been copyrighted in the year 2008 by Learn Real English, LLC. www.learnrealenglish.com